So hello, everybody. I am going to be talking today about integrating Slack into your chapter. And I know that this is kind of a newer platform for a lot of people. It's not like as easily accessible as Facebook Messenger, and it's not as intuitive as like Discord can be, but there are a lot of things that make it an easy thing to use for workspaces, and using it for your chapter is a great thing for organization purposes. And it's also great for district organization. So I'm gonna be walking you guys through like how you can set up Slack, what is Slack, different ways that you can set up a workspace for your chapter for different functionality purposes. It kind of helps you organize things a little bit better when you have a lot of different channels. I'm also gonna talk about the issue with integration with Slack, how you can start to kind of transition from whatever you're using for your chapter now into using Slack, and things that you can use to supplement the notification issues that Slack tends to have. So Slack is kind of like Discord. I know you both are familiar with using Slack through the district. It is mostly text-based, but there are also some voice channels that you can use for it. I use it at work all the time, and we have different channels that different departments are involved in, but there will be channels that everyone is on. Like we have our IT general or our IT major incident, which everybody is on, but general is more about general questions that people have, and major incident is more like there's an internet outage on campus, and they'll add everyone in the channel so that everyone's aware of the issue that's happening. We do the same thing with our chapter. We have a general communications channel that we have specific notification settings for our brothers to set so that they are constantly getting updates from that channel. But then we'll have things like our memes channel where brothers don't even have to have notifications on that channel, but you can still communicate with your brothers, and it is a nice thing to make like an open invite for some of them. And then you can have like your committee meetings, what have you, in like a private channel. So the first step to this is creating a workspace. Slack is free unless you get the premium plan. The premium plan just means that any of your past information will be reserved. A normal Slack account, I believe only 5 gigabytes of data will be saved, something like that, or it might be 5 megabytes. I don't remember.
Like 10,000 messages, something like that, but it's a lot.
Yeah, it's like 10,000 messages, and there's a certain amount of storage space that it takes up too. So after a while, it will start to delete things. So while you can maintain minutes there, my recommendation is use Google Drive for your minutes and then just post a link to it, kind of like what we do in the SED Slack. So the first step for creating your chapter workspace, you go to the Create site. I have the whole thing laid out on this presentation right now, and I'm going to post this to the website. So if anyone needs to go back to this for reference, they can go through and like look at the different steps that they need to take to make the workspace. This is directly from the Slack help guide. It's pretty easy. It takes like 2 minutes. I made like a test Slack today just to make sure that it was like as intuitive as it sounds, and it is. So I would go into specifics, but this is just here for later reference. The next step is to create channels for your chapter. It's pretty easy to make channels in Slack too. You'll see right here that there's this privacy setting, so you can make your channel a private channel. So if you wanted a channel with just the members of the executive board, or if you wanted a channel that's just like for finance committee or for service committee, you can make that setting. And then if you make it private, it'll prompt you to invite different people within your workspace. So you'll be able to send invites to people once you have people in your workspace. But it's easier to set up the channels first. So that way when people get into the Slack, they're not confused by there being no channels. So this is another one of the how-to guides. I really just wanted this to be something that people can come back to and like take a walk through in case they need to reference anything or they're planning on making the server, whatever. So the third step is inviting brothers to your workspace. We had a big problem with getting brothers involved initially in our Slack for Kappa Tau, but the biggest thing for us was if you take like an unmoderated caucus for like 5 minutes, people will sign up. As long as you're doing this in a time when you know that everyone in chapter will be there, it is easier for it to be set up that way. And whatever group you're currently using, you can also post a invite link on there, and they can get invited that way and they can join that way. You can also invite people individually by email if you're worried about people who aren't brothers maybe accidentally getting into your workspace, or people who aren't active anymore being involved in there. So you can, there's like an option on the right-hand side next to like where it says the name of the workspace, and there'll be an option under that that says invite people. And once you click on that, you can type in every email, and underneath that, there'll be an option that says edit the default channels, and you can click edit or add, and you can select like which channels they're automatically added into. That's why I recommend adding the channels first, because if you're adding channels after and you like set it to be private later, it's possible that you might get brothers that like aren't on the executive board stuck in your executive board chat, and they don't want to be getting notifications for that. So it's easier to set it up first. These are just some examples of possible setups for your chapter. On the right-hand side, we have the SED setup. So as you can see, I'm part of 3 different private channels on that Slack. There's like the district liaisons channel that I was in last year, and then there's the 8th Note committee that I'm on this year, and the council that I'm on too. And it's a lot of groups of different people, but because the privacy settings are set up that way, only we're able to see it. But we're also able to interact with the people in that group. And we can change the notification settings for however we want. I have the announcements channel set to give me notifications, I think 10 minutes after, because the announcements on my phone, it was kind of overwhelming when I initially joined, so I changed the notification settings. That's something you can do with your chapter Slack too. Over here, if you look on the left, we have the Capita setup, and this is just the channels that I'm a part of. So the calendar channel, we're actually working on getting Google Calendar added into our Slack so that it'll send us notifications for our chapter Google Calendar. There are a lot of ways that you can make it easier for the chapter to keep track of things like our Google Calendar, because we always have problems with brothers not being able to see it or not like remembering that it's a thing. And part of how we combat that is we're working on getting the Google Calendar linked up to there. For the documents channel, that's like where our constitution is. That's where any like sign up sheets for service are. We keep all of our important things in there. Since the minutes are a whole separate animal and we're posting them every week and we don't want them to get buried under signups for service, we have a separate channel for minutes. These are channels that we have like priority notification settings for. And we had a recess where I talked to everybody through like what notification settings you should have for each channel. For our memes page, obviously, that's not something every brother is going to want to be in, but it's something that we wanted to keep so that, you know, we were keeping with the brotherhood trend of wanting to make memes about things. And sometimes we'll do like brother spotting stuff in there, but that's really more for just fun interactive things. We also have general communications, which is where any brother can post and ask questions about important things that are happening. Like today we had somebody ask what time our doors close for our ritual tonight. It's things like that. In the important updates channel, we have, that one's for officers to send out updates. So that one functions more like a remind system. Like we don't have access if we're not on eBoard to post things in there. That's why we have the general communications channel so that regular brothers can post things too. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can set things up, and you just need to set it up for however is going to work for your chapter. So speaking of your chapter, there are a lot of different things that can come into effect when you're trying to transition to Slack. Bree, what platform does Alpha Eta use right now?
We use Facebook.
So we actually used Facebook too for a long time. Our biggest issue with the Facebook group was that we were having issues with like not kicking out older members who were already alumni, and then they were interacting with like things that the active chapter was trying to get done. And that wasn't necessarily effective for what we were trying to get done. Plus, like, sometimes they would think that it was the social page, and we had like 6 different Facebook pages for everything. And then we would be using Messenger for like notifications for things. And that was a whole nother thing. So we were having all kinds of miscommunications just because we were using Facebook instead of Slack. So we started transitioning last semester, and a big part of how we transitioned was by using multiple platforms, because it sucks to get involved in Slack initially. You have to be able to use both platforms before you can start to use just one by itself. So we were posting on the Facebook groups like our Slack like invitation page and like the sign up page that you could put on there. We were like constantly putting in things that we also already had in Slack, just so that the brothers who weren't on Slack weren't losing any information. So we were trying to most effectively keep things on both pages without it really affecting the other brothers. Just remember that nothing is immediate. It takes a lot of time to transition. That's why we chose to do it over a semester break. I highly recommend using that if you plan on transitioning to Slack. I think that it is easier to do over break, because once you get your executive board on there and you get them using it for like committees and stuff, that gets people more interested in using it for chapter purposes as well. So maybe for a semester, you're just doing committees on there. And then the next semester, you have like your minutes posted on there and your documents posted on there. And then the chapter after, or the semester after that, you're like fully transitioned. And I think part of the biggest issue with that is that your officers need to be posting on both platforms while you're transitioning. So you have to be cognizant of that without like, I guess, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Words are hard today. But you have to be able to keep an eye on your officers and make sure that they are doing the same thing that you're doing, where you're posting everything on there. And it helps when you have a brother like who is familiar with Slack, at least a little bit. I know like I ended up being the resource person because I was using it in my work already. Like USFIT, all of our communication is done through Slack. So it helps if you have a brother that you designate who is like your designated IT person, essentially. Somebody who is like in charge of the transition and helping you move forward. One of the biggest issues that I get all the time with Slack is notifications. Our brothers are constantly having issues with not getting updated on the things that are in certain channels, or our officers aren't getting responses to different polls that they post in Slack. And it's been a big, huge issue for us in this transition period. One of the ways that we found to combat it was by using Remind 101 as like a supplemental system, because that's like a text message. You're always going to get texts. You know that your brothers are already getting them on their phones all the time. So using Remind 101 has been immensely helpful, because once they get the push notification from that, you can send them back to Slack through that. You can send them a link to the Slack channel that you're trying to talk about. You can send them updates on like ritual times and things like that. And it's already a system that a lot of different marching band programs are using. So it is like probably the most effective tool for combating the notifications issue. I would also say if you have any like big issues with brothers just not receiving notifications from the Slack at all, the best way to combat that is you go onto Google, you look up Slack notifications, and then you set up something for your chapter, like a presentation or something, and you do like a 5-minute recess or like a 5-minute moderated caucus, unmoderated, whatever, and you walk them through setting up the notifications for each channel. I know I said it earlier, but I'm saying it again because it's the most important step. If you don't have your brothers getting notifications, Slack is not going to work. That's just how it is. So to review everything that we've gone over, you're setting up your workspace, utilizing channels, and you are going to take time to transition because nothing is immediate. But once you start using things like Remind, or you're posting on your Facebook groups about, hey, this is in Slack, And you make sure that your notifications are set up correctly, and you've taken that time to make sure all of the brothers are able to respond to different things and see different things in a timely fashion, that's when you have Slack set up correctly. We also use Slack in the Southeast District. There are currently 386 people who are members of our Slack channel, and you can help us increase that number by joining. And there's a little join link. That's it. That's the presentation. Do you guys have any questions or anything?
I do have a question, and I could easily Google this and maybe find out the answer. Probably find out the answer. But because I'm in a student advisory committee Slack, the SED Slack, and then in the curriculum committee Slack, and I have a hard time getting notifications for the curriculum committee Slack. You know what I mean, like the different workspaces. So is there a way to make sure that I get notifications from all of my workspaces?
Yes. So one of the things that I have to do, since I'm in like 5 different workspaces, because we use Slack for our marching band too now, I like have my account settings set up so that I get a push notification for everything that I have set to a priority. So I think like, let me go into Slack right now and see if I can show you. So like, I think it's not under edit workspaces. Sorry, it might take me a second to pull it up. But I had to do this for like every workspace because technically every workspace is a different account. But if you go into the workspace and then you click on like the 3 little dots up here, you should be able to like go into settings from there for that workspace. And then like for notifications, you can click on settings again. Sorry, I don't know if you can see my screen right now. And then you can double check like what your on mobile setting is. I have mine for all new messages for all of my Slacks because I do not trust it. I trust nothing and no one. The Slack it's wild. That's why we use Remind too, because sometimes it just doesn't even give you a notification about anything.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's pretty good. And if you set it for notify me on mobile as quick as possible, that is like the #1 setting to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can look into it. Mostly I just use the SED one, but then there's a rare occasion that they send something in curriculum committee and I don't. And another thing is I'll see like the little pop-up on my computer when I'm on Slack, but I don't see it on my phone. So like the difference between those, and if I just got a notification, like I'd love to see what's going on in curriculum, you know?
So the worst thing about Slack is that the mobile settings are not the computer settings. So if you don't have the mobile settings set up to send you the notifications as quick as possible, you're not going to get them on mobile, but you will get them on your computer. So like if you don't have the settings set up to send you the mobile thing, then you're not going to get it at all.
Gotcha.
So you kind of have to just double, triple check your workspace and make sure that it's set up that way.
Okay.
Well, that makes so much sense now.
Yep. I learned